Hey, everybody, this is Kevin again with Leading Edge Financial Planning. Today, I'm going to talk about the three bucket approach. I'm going to talk about the theory and then the practice of how do you actually make this type of approach to retirement income. So, I want to start out by being very dramatic because I think this is a very dramatic issue. When you stop working and you're living off your money, I think your retirement income is so important. Being able to spend money every year in your retirement is so important. I would say it's almost like oxygen. So if we think about a little bit, like if you were in a spacecraft, okay, or just say let's say a plane that's flying at an extremely high altitude. I mean, oxygen is critical for life, obviously. And this guy here, it shows how oxygen is made aboard a spacecraft. Let's say that you have a couple of tanks of oxygen, and you're up in space and you can't get back. And this machine breaks down, stops making more oxygen. Well, now you have a couple of canisters of oxygen, and are you going to live longer than that oxygen will last? Probably not. I think the retirement income, the oxygen analogy is as critical as it feels when people do retire. I really think it is. And so, hopefully you could come back to Earth and get oxygen again. But coming back to Earth and getting oxygen in retirement planning would mean that you go back to work. You're getting that machine to continue to produce money. So I think it is really that critical for people that are not retired or have not worked with people that are retired. Maybe you disagree, but when you talk to somebody and they're no longer working and there's only so much money left for the rest of their life, it becomes really critical. So Charlie and I have written a couple of articles. This one was from 2016 after Brexit, and just talking. There was a lot of fear at that time. There's always fear about some apocalypse du jour. But we talked again about the three bucket approach to investing. And so I'm going to go over that today, not just the theory, but also the practice of it. So let's start out by looking at the three bucket approach to mopping. And this is a YouTube video, a true video here from Contech. And they talk about, like having three buckets and mopping is really helpful. And, when I first heard the idea of three buckets, I kind of laughed at it and said, that's, maybe a little bit stupid. But, this video is all about the fact that when you have three buckets and each bucket does its own thing, that allows you to do much better. And what the bucket approach is all about for human beings is it's all about the fact that we as human beings, we like to have a goal. And by having three buckets, we actually can have three goals in retirement, which most people do. They want to spend money now. That's the first bucket, the cash. You want to have cash to spend. You want a conservative bucket that every night you can go to sleep, the head hits the pillow, and you can feel like, all right, I have this conservative bucket for the next so many years that I know that this money is not going to go poof and gone. If the world goes to hell in a handbasket, as long as the world's not destroyed and the economy doesn't go bankrupt of the world, then I'm going to have this money. So this, again, gives you peace of mind that you have oxygen for the next so many years. And then the growth bucket, this really is all about inflation, not just the fear of inflation, but real inflation. If you listen to the podcast from Seema, we talked with her about inflation, and she said, yeah, the Fed, she's from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis. She said, yeah, the Fed does want to produce some inflation, and she talks about the reasons for it. So inflation is a real deal. It's the real thing. We hope to continue to have some inflation, not out of hand. Don't let me hook you with that comment. But this growth bucket is really all about staying ahead of inflation. So in the long run, you're able to live successfully. So anyway, so what's the negatives about the three bucket approach? Well, one of my favorite authors, William Bernstein, The Four Pillars of Investing, he used to say, I used to see him on podcasts and see him on videos and listen to him on podcasts. And he used to say that the three bucket approach was kind of nonsense because, at the end of the day, if you take a portfolio and you make one portfolio or you make three portfolios, really you're still managing to a percentage of stocks and bonds. And so that's what he used to say. He was a neurologist that became a financial author, and he used to say, it's a little bit silly. But then what happens is he started working with clients. And what he found when he worked with clients, that actually the three bucket approach, he backed off on saying it was nonsense. He said, I get it now. That human beings, we want to know that we're going to have oxygen for today. We're going to be okay. We want to know that we're going to have oxygen for the next 7, 10 years, regardless of what happens in the stock market. And then we also want to know that inflation is not going to eat away our spending power. And so he came around a little bit more towards this idea. So let me share with you. This might take me a second to share this, but let me share with you. I think one of the better articles that's out there, give him some praise, Money Crashers. This is Jason Brick, who published this in 2021. So I'll link to this. I found it really great. He goes over, the three buckets. Again, you have three goals in retirement. You really do. You might not know it. You want money coming in every day. You want there to be safer money for the near future in case it hits the fan, and you want some high risk holdings. So he talks about this. He also talks about the pros and cons of it. And I'll pick out a few of the pros here. Conceptually, it's simple. Yeah, this is it. Anyone could do this, right? Well, it gets a little tougher, and I'll speak to that at the end, that it's a little bit hard actually to manage and manipulate these three buckets and to do it in a way that makes clients feel good, makes you feel good as a pilot or high income person that's retiring and needs oxygen. But conceptually, it's really easy for us to understand that every day we wake up and we can feel good about the short, mid, and long-term buckets. It does provide access to both the money in the short run and growth. It protects against down markets. Now, again, if you had a 50% stock and bond portfolio and the 50% stock portfolio goes down, does it matter that there's separate portfolios? Maybe not, but we're going to then focus on the fact that the next 10 years are good. So again, for human beings that fear running out of oxygen, that have a fear of running out of oxygen, this can be extremely helpful. So the cons, I always love presenting cons to clients because we are not in the business of sales. We're in the business of financial planning. So, we're still relying a little bit on like, when do we rebalance the portfolio? Yes, we absolutely can use, when the overall allocation gets higher, when stocks do well, but there still is a little bit of art within this process. It's cumbersome to manage. Now, our recommendation is for people, especially if they're overly concerned about stock markets, is to have separate accounts and call them bucket 2 and bucket 3. Most of the time, the cash bucket will be at your bank, but we could also set up a bucket 1, especially with treasuries now a little bit higher. You can get 4 or 5%, but it's a little bit cumbersome because not only do you have taxable accounts, IRAs and Roths, but you also might have pensions and other types of investment, and it becomes a little bit more cumbersome than you could imagine. And I really think that's the benefit that financial planners can bring if you're interested in a 3-bucket approach, which is one of multiple approaches to retirement income. It says here a high barrier to entry. I don't know if that's true. Sacrificing growth for safety. Again, I don't know if that's true, and I'll tell you why. The reason I don't think you're sacrificing growth for safety when it comes to the 3-bucket approach is that, for example, I have $10 million, okay? I have $10 million and I just retire. I could have a 1 bucket with 400,000, a second bucket with 3 million, and then the rest I could have in the bucket number 3. So the overall allocation is still somewhere around 75% stock and 25% bond. Now, if I only have $2 million, and that's usually when we have to do this type of approach, and I'm spending a certain amount that's going to put stress on me, well, then maybe it's more like a 50% equity, 50% bond allocation. Overall portfolio. Again, the 3 buckets is just for me, the person that's retired, to know that I'm going to have oxygen for the next 30 years and how I'm going to get that oxygen. So it's just a little bit tricky to understand the fact that, yeah, there still is an allocation. And so I don't think it really hurts. Again, there are some theoretical reasons why it could hurt, rebalancing at the wrong time, et cetera. And if we have a bad run of stocks for a number of years, yes, that's all true. But that can happen just with a allocation of stocks and bonds as well. So anyway, if you're interested in the three bucket approach, it's important to, again, not just understand the theoretical benefit, but also how this gets set up and how it gets managed. And these different taxable buckets, IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, even annuities as part of that. Yes, I use the annuity word, I think is critical to success and making sure that when you step out of the workaday world and that you're no longer producing money and now you have a certain amount of money, pension, Social Security for the rest of your life, that you have a system where you can not only be good, because being good is like having enough money, but also feel good. And that's really what I think the three bucket approach can bring. It can bring a lot of peace of mind. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, if you think the three bucket approach is the best thing ever, or if you think it's the worst thing ever, I'd love to get your comments and just why. So thanks so much. Take care.
Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Leading Edge Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For additional information, please visit our website at www.leadingedgeplanning.com. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, and it should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security. It does not take into account any investor's particular investment objectives, strategies, tax status, or investment horizon. You should consult your attorney or tax advisor. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change based on market and other conditions. These documents may contain certain statements that may be deemed forward-looking statements. Please note that any such statements are not guarantees of any future performance, and actual results or developments may differ materially from those projected. Any projections, market outlooks, or estimates are based upon certain assumptions and should not be construed as indicative of actual events that will occur. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such.